It's a very interesting topic that we have today in hand. I was just having a read through about this particular topic, and there are various aspects to this particular topic. And what we would want to do is we want to address those different aspects of this topic while we, what do you call it, while we have this conversation today. Something which came in while I was reading up on this particular topic is that great leaders with great characters would characteristics, like, let me put it that way, make illustrious and successful leaders. I would want to understand from the panel today how true is that, and how true would that be today. So maybe it's open for anybody, one of our guys, to talk about it. Kamal, Mr. MVN, yeah, anybody.
Okay.
Could. Annapurna, anybody.
What was the last sentence?
Paul, shall I start?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. See, before getting into the character itself, I want to touch upon the fundamental management versus leadership, because today there is a confuse between management and leadership. Should I become a manager or should I become a leader? Okay. So that's where we need to classify. When the management stops, the leadership starts. That's how I am seeing it. And basically try to understand if you are going to manage the already existing thing, then you can choose the managerial skills. If you are going to handle, or you are going to take in charge of or delivering the results on the things which are not so far not predicted, it is going to happen. So that is the area, is the leadership. So management is, it's easy to meeting the targets and meeting the day-to-day operations and handling the problems and solving the immediate problems. But leadership is totally different from that. You are going to lay the new way forward, and the leadership is going to inspire for the change, and the leadership is going to solve the long-term plan. So in that way, when I see that so-called some of the leaders, they get into this management versus leadership, get confused. Even though there are 256,000 books are so far has come for leadership, but people is still getting confused between this management and leadership. Being a young leaders, this audience, if you clear about management versus leadership, that will help you to grow as a leader. And what are the few characteristics I have seen on the great leaders? Apart from this management and leadership, all that, some guys have the both paradigms. They're able to manage. They are carrying the entrepreneurship skills. So that entrepreneurship is always ready to go for anything. They will think everything is possible. So that kind of a mindset and attitude is needed for the great leaders. And the second one, I've seen that the leaders who have the social responsibility, apart from the professional and the personal, their life, those who have spent more on the social life, they become and taking care of the social responsibilities are the great leaders. And the third one, I see that the leaders who has the lot of empathy and having more emotional balance. So these are the three major characteristics I always see from the great leaders who are who followed or who practiced or who are role model on these areas are very successful. And you can categorize from national leaders to corporate leaders or political leaders under this three category. Whoever adopted any one of this are becoming a very great leader.
Wonderful. A very interesting thought which has come up is what Vishu said is that where management stops, leadership starts. Building on that, let's talk about the characteristics and maybe build on that thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kamal here, Paul, and
Yeah,
thank you, Vishu. I think you started really on a note that all of us resonate with, right? So I truly believe that leaders need to take care of a lot of things or qualities, right? And they need to embrace those. And as you rightly said, they should know where to end management and where to start leadership, right? So if you say you're taking a decision, that decision should be driven through a lot of thought, right? If that thought is missing and those basics are missing, absolutely, the way forward is zero, right? It leads you to total success when you take a wise decision by keeping all these things in mind. Where do you start? Where do you want to end? What is the end result that you want to achieve, right? So I truly believe that the leaders who have kind of succeeded have taken these aspects into account. Even they say it or they don't say it, but actually they practice it on a daily basis, right? And it comes from experience. It cannot come from a book, as you said. There'll be some 20,000 books that are written, but how many of them teach you leadership on the ground is very different. Yeah. And each corporate also is different, right? So we said, political leaders or corporate leaders and stuff, but each corporate also is very different. So in each of the corporates, we all have worked in different kind of corporates. It can be a manufacturing setup or a software company, or a hospitality industry. The cultures are very different. So you need to mold yourself as a leader, right? And then guide your own people so that you drive the success through them. That's where I would leave it.
okay, wonderful. And you are one of the people who you've seen the transition from HR, from being administration to what it is today. A very interesting thought which came out, which Kamal was pointing out, was leadership through thought and experience is very, very critical and very, very important. What are your views? One is that, and the second, the leadership part of it. It's kind of critical.
Actually, my own thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can.
See, I having seen enough of work life in the corporate world, as I've seen life too. There are two kinds of leaders. What I believe are there. There is one set of leaders, or these called so-called inspirational leaders, whom you read about in the books like Mahatma Gandhi's and so on and so forth. And the second one is basically the instructional leaders,
Okay.
people whom you come across in the here and now life, whom you bump into, whom you spend time with, whom you learn from. It can be anybody. It can begin with your parents, because most of us know that. I think a lot of children learn by imitating parents. And the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you do things, the way you communicate, a lot of these things come from our imitation in the beginning. And along the way, every single boss and the peer with whom you work with, I think they have some impact on you at some point or the other. And largely, in my view, the difference is about leadership is all about actioning. It's about doing. It's about creating an impact. And that impact, if it is very positive and also takes the people around with you, I think I would call it as a very positive leadership in my view. And I've seen actually very many leaders. I mean, I'm sure I've seen leaders whom you talk about and read about in the newspapers. I work very closely with them. And know that every leader is not a leader
I mean, I think we're having a
all the
slight
time.
technical
A
difficulty.
leader also a leader when he
Okay, and we are having a slight difficulty in, if you could just repeat that last part of it. I think we missed out on the last part of the golden nuggets. If you could just.
no, but the golden nugget is nothing much. But what I'm saying is that we generally, I mean, when you read up about, let's say, the greatest of all, Mahatma Gandhi, I mean, I'm sure none of us have ever seen him, and he has created the greatest impact in
Yeah.
the history of this nation, and he can be counted as a leader par excellence. And
Absolutely.
but when people write about him, people do write about there are many failings of the leader too. And it is not that actually a leader always comes with only those right things at all the right times. So I mean, I'm sure as an instructional leader, you learn that you keep doing things. There are many times you fail, sometimes you succeed, and the success when the outcome is talked about as a great leader.
Wonderful.
When somebody writes about a book, I'm sure he's not talking about how many times the famous leaders have failed and how many times they have created misery for people around them. But we are talking about those few occasions and few years down the road when people talk about the kind of achievement they have achieved. I think it's very interesting to see that leaders are humans and leaders are a set of actions, which broadly I categorize them under the thinking, acting, and engaging kind of actions they do.
Okay.
I mean, these are the three kinds of actions every leader does. He does some thinking, which we normally categorize as your strategic thinking and so on and so forth. The kind of acting is basically about your synergistic customer engagement and so on and so forth. And so-called engaging, what we classify them as your social quotient and all those emotional quotient and how do I interface and what is my social intelligence and collaboration and so on and so forth. I think the combination of all these competencies then actually come into delivering the result, and that is when you see the leadership in impact. And that's what my take on leadership. And I want to actually sound a little more grounded, because people tend to get carried away because we read a lot of it, and we all think that one guy possesses all of those things. But I doubt very much, after so many years, I have not come across very many so-called great leaders who are everything built into them from day one, and then they have actually demonstrated it every day from morning 6 o'clock to midnight 12 o'clock. I think that's not the way it works, I guess.
Interesting observation. Thanks, MVN. Annapurna, you have been into coaching for a pretty long time, and we were and MVM was more talking towards the inspirational leadership within the instruction leadership. And in your tenure, in your career, you would have seen a lot of inspirational leaders versus let me put it, the instructional leaders. Instruction leaders generally are not liked too much, to be honest with you. Inspirational leaders are larger than life. They're liked quite a bit. This is my personal opinion about it. But instructional leaders are seen as tyrants in a lot of instances. And when we come about, so that's one part. So what has been your experience in terms of interacting with these particular set of leaders? That's one. Second part of it is we were talking about the thinking, acting, engaging part of it. This question, I think we'll come back to this question. I think we'll elaborate more on that. So let's address the first part of the question and then talk about the leadership, maybe the characteristics of a good leader as per you. So that might help.
Okay, thank you, Paul. At last, I think I'm very happy that I got all my tech gigs set, and I'm visible, and I think I'm visible to you all also.
Yes, yes, you are.
Fantastic, yes, fantastic. So I think this is first leadership point for me now today. Okay, so as Vishu told, our is where the management stops, the leadership begins. I will give one more, same type of thing. Are leaders born or are leaders made? This is another fundamental question which we all ask us. So for me, though the textbooks may tell that no, the leaders are made and things like that, I go by my experience of 2 decades plus. The statement stands good for telling that yes, leaders are made also, leaders are born also. I hold that statement because I personally went through the entire journey of sometimes in making, sometimes I have been born as a leader also. Right. So for me, fundamentally, when I think the kids, if I can just tell you for now, you as kids, otherwise you're colleagues of us, beyond your 700 days, you're going to be our colleagues. So enjoy your 700 days of your experimental labs in the dorms, Trichy there. And then as soon as you come out, you will be our colleagues. And I would say that maybe Mr. Rao will agree, or I don't know how many of you have seen the actual evolution of our whole of the HR space or the complete industry space itself. So when we are talking about, in particular with HR reference, we were all IR leaders and then we evolved as a HR leader. Okay, that's how we have become. And now either it could be in that IR era or it could be in the so-called now HR era, whatever you talk about it, or in leadership per se. My main characteristics, what I have experienced, seen, always felt is 2 things determine a leader. One is extreme courage. Second is high on integrity, come what may. I will give you, if you permit me, Paul, I wanted to just put one example over here. It is exactly, guys, when exactly after you, how you are going to leave your different campuses and join for jobs. Same time, my first job in a very good PSU sector. I was all gung-ho about it, being the personal officer, given with lot of responsibilities. And I mean, my first stint was with the private sector and then came to public sector. Had I joined the other way, that would have been a different thing. But in private sectors, you get to work so much, and then you bring that kind of mindset to the public sector. So I joined a very big national defense public sector, and I started working over there, and I have been given with enormous opportunities. And this one particular opportunity of hiring almost 200 engineers across India when there was no internet time. So lakhs of applications coming on the wagons of speed post, segregating them, and exactly in your age when I'm holding this position, okay? And I was completely holding this project end to end and recruiting for the entire Bangalore locations of all the divisions. And everything went off fine. And I was the first starter of doing automation of the complete project. So I don't know if you remember something called a Fox Pro programming. Okay, I used to work on that, created everything, or they created a programming language in that, created applications in that, did all the processes, everything went fine. It is one of the best projects even till now. If people in that sector would ask about it, all went fine, all started well, ended well. That is what it is today. I can say, sit back and tell, yes, it is ended well. But during that time, guys, it didn't really end well. I think it would have been a very different scenario if I would have taken some other step. What has exactly happened is, sometimes you get to follow very nonsensical leaders as your reporting leaders. That's what has happened at that point of time. You had a leader. I was reporting to someone as called, I don't know whether I should tell him a manager or a leader or a stupid or whatever it is. That guy has zero integrity. Okay, and I was the scapegoat for the entire system of that, and it went into a high corruption case. A lot of things have happened. None other than the biggest bureau, that is CBI. Okay, the Central Bureau of Investigation. I was standing in front of them for my case which was going on, telling that what has happened and there was corruption. So people, after you have done a laborious work, after you have introduced automation, after yours, it is the first time you have taken up the whole thing and you have done it with 100 people as a project which you have delivered on time delivery, class apart, it was a project. And there you're standing after that by telling that whether your honesty is being tested over there, your integrity is being tested over there, asking several questions that, have you taken any money for doing all of this and things like that. That's really difficult to take it, I'll tell you, my dear friends. It is very difficult. But younger days, when you have such experiences, I'll tell you, when I'm sitting right now after some 20 years, I can talk it as a story now. But of course, that time it was very difficult. I was almost in the phase that whether I have to give up my life, because I couldn't take myself by telling that all that honesty and integrity what I've done, should I be shamed like this in the public? I left that organization. My father was also in the same organization, so we had a very, very tough time. My entire family was scrutinized because CBI will never leave anything, my own homes, my money, my banks, my everything and all. So maybe I was married, I had a daughter, which kept me going, that telling that your mother is not a corrupt mother. She didn't leave the world by being a corrupt. So character building is very important, come what may. So whatever it is, I would say, my dear friends, young friends, please do not compromise on your integrity at any point of time. There will be a lot of situations, a lot of challenges will come. It will be that you are on the frying pan all the time. That one lesson at a very early stage of my life, I think next, whatever 9 organizations I've worked, I never felt that any challenge is a great challenge for me. That's what it creates for us. So whenever I tell that our leaders made or born, sometimes I evolved as a leader that time. I didn't know from where the capacity has come for me. How did I go through? What has happened to me? But I framed 2 principles in my mind at that very early stage in my life, that immense courage to take up anything as a leader, whatever function you are, whether marketing, sales, supply chain, operations, HR, whatever it is, exemplary courage and exemplary integrity. These are my 2 fundamental characteristics which you should showcase as a leader. And I think when you're talking about wisdom leadership, these are some of the things I would place it at a very, very highest pinnacle. Thank you so much.
That's a great thought. Okay, so somebody whom I dote, I had a opportunity a few years back, or rather, interaction with Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, and I've had an opportunity there. Somebody whom I dote, whom I admire. I summarize, and I would want to see. I've seen him as a scientist. We've read about him. Something which I have noticed about him as an individual, as a person, is the humbleness that he carries, the grounded attitude that he carries. And somehow I feel that as a leader, that's a very crucial aspect that individuals tend to forget as they climb up the ladder. We tend to forget that we started from the same level, and we leave the human space and we go on to the next space. Great thoughts. I'm coming back to what MVN had thought about, or what he was talking about thinking, acting, and engaging as leaders. Very, very crucial for this set of individuals. We have close to around some 110 odd people in this call. It's a very interesting thought about how you can think, act, and engage as a leader. It is very, very, and at this juncture, and at the juncture at which our friends are going to start at, our colleagues are going to start at. Any thoughts about that? So let's start with you, MVN, because you were the one who put the thought there into that point.
See, when you try to decipher and try to teach and develop leaders, I think you try to decode what exactly do we mean by leadership in any corporation or organization. Mm-hmm. And we in our organization, after a great amount of internal thinking and research, and then found out that we expect every one of our leaders at every level. It's no different whether you are a tier 4 leader sitting at the highest at the functional head level or at the entry level leader. You got to be doing these three things. Finally, one is actually either you are creating, enabling thinking, or you are actually thinking, or you are making strategic choices, tactical choices, or what is to be done, what is the play you need to have. Every leader is expected to make choices in terms of decision making, in terms of doing, or the place where you need to play and what I do not need to do. And that is one act one need to learn. I mean, I'm sure everyone single sitting out there should learn that whatever job you're going to get placed in, there will be choices you need to make at every point of time. And the choices are made in a learned way by actually learning how to make those kind of choices, and how do I actually make others understand the choices I have made and rally people to come forward and then participate in those choices. That's one important point. You can call it by different names: visioning, purpose, meaning. So many things are there in that. You can talk about it, but this is one set of things which we need to do. Second one is about the acting part of it. Acting part and engaging part may look a little close to each other, but the acting part is how do I convert some of the thoughts into something more which is a systemic level or at a system level. How do I actually convert and communicate to people in ways that it can be actually acted upon? That is where many of these things, your digital collaboration and your digital learning abilities, so many of these things come into the picture. And the third aspect is about your engaging. Engaging comes into engaging with peers, engaging with the people who work with, engaging with the people whom you need to convince, and engaging with the larger community, which we talk about as a trusteeship these days. That is basically what you call about your other stakeholders who are actually involved along with the corporation. So I think you need to actually able to engage with all these people, and then finally collaborate many of these things together and bring a purpose to existence. I mean, ultimately, every organization exists for a purpose. I think nobody is there to do charity. I'm sure a commercial organization exists for a purpose, and a charitable organization also exists for a purpose. And the leader's job is to actually make sure that all these things come together, and finally the purpose is achieved. And purpose is achieved in a way what Annapurna was talking about, with integrity and character, so that I think you leave behind something which people can pick up and then take it forward and run. In my view, I think this is what the ultimate aim of leadership: creating a positive impact through these thinking, acting, and engaging competencies, and then you build on top of that. And then I think you can take it up in different levels, different companies, different things. You can decide what is considered as thinking for them and what is considered as acting and engaging. It may vary for an IT company, for a manufacturing company, for an EPC company, for a construction company. It differs because what is the kind of a play we are on, and what is the kind of a geography we are playing in, what are the kind of a other competition that we are dealing with, and what are the kind of wherewithal we have, and ammunition I have, and armory I have, which I can actually bring to the table and play with that. I mean, these are some of the things which we talk about, and the wisdom part of it comes in how many times you have failed in doing so, which I'm sure with every career, all of you, like what Annapurna brought out a fantastic thing. I can tell you that. I think that's that must be a real life-changing event for her, according to me, because you learn something from success, but something more from a not so successful kind of an event or an experience. I mean, that learning will stay with you for a long, long period. In fact, that's one of the things actually. I think don't try to push failures under the carpet. I think we should be able to celebrate failures and look at it and learn from it. And if an organization is willing to allow the failures to be brought about and brought into the open and deal with it, I think that organization is going to create a culture where creativity and innovation will flourish. Otherwise, it is all actually a lot of talk. I mean, it doesn't work beyond the point of talking. I think that's where I think my own thing with respect to the thinking, acting, engaging, and wisdom. And of course, I think I am also talking with lots of experience of both being a leader, having led teams of thousands of people across the world, and also actually trying to help my managers to grow into from what I call as individual contributor to first level to second level to leader of the leaders, and then even become the board members and so on and so forth. So this is where actually my take on the entire thing is. But the journey is very fascinating. I think young people who are sitting and listening, I think what I can leave a message is basically it's a very fascinating journey. You learn a lot. You make a lot of mistakes around. There are a lot of sleepless nights you have, and then you look back. And at the end of it, if a few people come back and tell you, in fact, I'll tell you very honestly, today I was listening to the eulogy because one of our very senior directors who passed away very recently, there was a condolence meeting for him. And the who of the industry was participating in that. And the kind of connect, the kind of impact which he would have made on all of them, and the number of people and the number of messages, and all boiled down to what he did inadvertently. I mean, I wonder if he knew when he was working, whether he created that kind of an impact. Because that is where I keep coming about is that instructional leader, in my view, is not actually, he's actually telling what to do. He's doing work, and by doing the work, he's impacting others. And those are the kind of leaders whom you bump into every day. Because your boss is an instructional leader to you. I'm sure he's telling you something. You learn something from him. He doesn't know what he's doing to you. But maybe 10 years down the road, when you recount the story, where did you learn that? If you reflect on it, I'm sure that event will come back and strike you. And that instruction has helped me to actually learn and observe and grow from that particular place. And this is my little take on that subject.
That's a great thought. I was actually looking at Kamal while you were talking about learning from your failures, and I saw him smile. I wanted to understand what that was all about, and then I think I think he would definitely have some anecdote about learning from failures. Because
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you caught it well, Paul. I must say you have got great observation skills, right? Okay. Yeah. When MV was talking about learning from failures, obviously, the thought that came into my mind, Paul, was very, very basic, right? None of us are perfect from the start, as MV said in his first note itself. None of us are like the go-to people. We are not Superman or Batman or whatever, right? We all learn through the process. So there have been good learnings. There have been learnings from experiences of people. I would like to put across to the table here and talk to the 100+ people here and kind of tell them that there are situations when you have leaders who want to share their experiences, learn from their experiences, might not be 100% relevant, versus their generation and now, right? As Annapurna also gave us an example of, what happened 25 years ago or 20+ years ago, might not be that relevant, but yeah, the key message is integrity, right? So similarly, we all have learned in different ways, right? I totally believe that if your actions inspire others to dream, right? And learn more, do more, and become more, then that person is a leader, right? That's a simple thought that has always been seeded with all of us. I think all of us resonate with it. And when MV sir was talking about the change aspect, so there's one quote that came into my mind, and that actually made me smile a little, where Mahatma Gandhi said, "We must become the change we want to be." Right. So whatever changes you want to bring, right, just not putting on a piece of paper or a presentation and put it across to the entire janta who's listening to you. Rather, you start doing it by practicing yourself. That's where that smile came in, and then I went back to my own days of when I used to think. One of my TA heads, talent acquisition head, used to share his experience. I would say, okay, what you did was 20 years ago, man. I don't know if it is relevant now. But the base was, there were a couple of things that came out. And maybe after once, missing that, the second time when I kind of heard him and tried to implement it in the new method, because we were in a new generation, right? It really worked. So please don't ignore the experiences of people. They always count.
Wonderful. That's a good thought. Vishu, you come from a different school of. We are more of HR professionals. You and Annapurna are more of more into the business side. You're doing an NGO, if I'm not mistaken. You're working on that. So we were talking about making choices wisely. We were talking about it is important that we need to make choices wisely. How important is it that for a leader? Because we see a lot of people making rough choices based on their leaders telling them something to do. How important is that issue? So I wanted to understand from your perspective in terms of how that is important.
Okay, so before I touch upon, I like to highlight on the change side. So because the change is very important, it is people talk about the change and people like change, but they don't like being changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I was able to adopt change more and more because I like to share my personal one. Like I did my UG BSc zoology, okay, and after that I did PG DBA, and after that I started my vehicle finance business, and I was making more money. But by the time my dad said, okay, if you make more money at this young stage, you may not grow. So he said, take some challenge and go for that. That's where the Aptech and NIT came, and I joined with them and learned the technology part. And at that time, from Trichy, I moved to Chennai. I started the browsing center. Those days, it's a 180 rupees per hour. So that totally given a different change for me from moving from Trichy to Chennai and doing the business also. It's totally different here, the technology business. But down the line, the people who are coming there, they are coming here to either seeking the job or they want to start the business. So that's where I'm saying the choice which you are going to do that. So want to become an employee or you want to become an entrepreneur. So these are the two choices. And we saw that people are keep coming and looking for a job. Why don't we create the job? So the partners, we thought, why don't we start developing some applications? And we started doing for some of the hotel management and the airline reservation. So it is good. We able to implement the project. Again, we started making money. But by the time the database is growing, system issue, network issue, that's where we thought we have to hire somebody from outside and come and fix that. But we realized that we cannot pay or afford that much. Why don't we learn it and why don't we go and fix it? So that's how I learned the database management and started fixing the database issues. So that technology gave me a different flavor. And I quit the entrepreneur, my business, and I joined with Citibank as a DBA, database administrator. So this background, like coming from business to technology, and you have to work as an employee. But 4 or 5 years only. After that, I'm not able to tolerate this instructional things because the entrepreneurial hat is not allowing me to listen and do that. So again, I want to go back to the business side, but my dad said, no, it's not time for you to come back to business. Let's move on your corporate. So that's where from technical, I moved to the management. And I started doing the project management, got certified in project management. And when I was in US, I was able to do that transition and able to be resilient on that. So that's where I want to say this rethink, revive, whatever the theme of this Inacon conference, resilience is more needed. That will, you can make the choices, but the choices after you taking it, you may get a lot of failures. As MVN and Kamal, everybody talking about the failures. The failures, if you are ready to face any failures, then only you can become an entrepreneur. Otherwise, the safe journey is more on the employee. So choices, you can make it. And after running this corporate life, again, I have decided to move back to entrepreneurs. So after 25 years, so social entrepreneurship. But it is not so easy that last 4-5 months, I'm seeing that lot of ups and downs. Sometimes like I'm getting excited, oh, I have taken the right decision. Sometimes I'm thinking, should I go back to corporate and be safe? So these are the two thoughts that keep coming. So the choices when you are making, you need to be, whatever we talked about is the past. The emerging future is really needed the leader who can be a surfer, because the surfer can face everything with more courageous. The thinking also needed more courageous. That's how when they acting, before acting, I feel that they need to have the sensing also, because the current reality versus the future. And if they don't realize it, they may not be able to travel in the unpredicted path. And the third one is more and more required for people is agility. That agility is not there, you cannot survive. And my continuous learning and continuous improvement and the constancy of purpose, these three things really help to make the choices and stay in the and make some milestone achievement, then you take the other one. But if you keep swinging here and there, you may not be, like if you chase 2 rabbits, you may not be able to catch any one of them. So better focus on the one thing. So choices are good when you are making, but you have to sustain in that for a long time. That long time depends on the people, like where you are, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's up to you.
Interesting, Sandrishu, because choices is something that we always talk about. It is choices versus actions. We'll come to that in some time. There is a very important point, Annapurna, I want you to answer, because you have been interacting with senior leaders. Are all leaders at every level in the organization expected to do the same kind of activities? Because typically what happens is that if there is a vice president or there's an associate vice president, the deliverables for everybody becomes more or less static, because people say that you are at the same level, you're expected to do the same thing. So are we creating a generation of leaders who are cut, copy, paste? That's one. Or are we trying to give them that intellectual freedom of doing something differently and coming out with different results? That's a question for you. So maybe you'd be in a position to highlight.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful question, Paul, I would say. One is, let us not get confused with designations and leadership. We might give everyone associate vice president, HOD, this thing, all sort of things, okay, just to please them up. So they are not leaders. They are just designations. Leaders could be from any level. You know, they could be at junior level, they could be at mid-level, senior, or at topmost level. Now, they can showcase these leadership qualities. I'll just take one step behind, and I will also try to connect where MVN was trying to talk about think, act, and engage. I will give you a sutra of 7 sutras, okay? 1, if you wanted to see a leader, if across the organization, whomsoever you wanted to see, a person should have self-mastery. Okay, what is self-mastery? Physically easy, showcasing his fitness levels across. Is he emotionally showcasing his great fitness? Psychologically, is he there? Okay, let us not talk about the spiritual thing. I don't know about it, but I have seen across whether this physical, emotional, or psychological or mental well-being, or whatever it is, has it been in place or not? Has he mastered that or not? That's very important. Then the second thing is like Vishu was talking about sensing perceptions. What kind of perceptions are these leaders making across, and how are they showcasing this for their perception or perspectives about everything and things like that? So these two are something which I can categorize in the thinking part of it. How do they think, how do they make their own self mastery, and how do they really get into the perceptions of things like that? When we talk about acting, are, again, I go back to Vishu and connect it to it. Are they agile? Are they evolving continuously? Are they able to manage the change? Are they evolving as per the business needs? Are they able to get into the puzzle fixing? Are they able to be aligned to the business needs or not, and things like that? How are they able to do that? That is called evolving of the leader. And at any stage, the leader can evolve over there. And how is the conduct? At no time with any stakeholder in the organization, I can show any kind of misconduct. I cannot tell that, hey, I'm in a group of guys, so koi baat nahi yaar, I can just tell that, hey, that haughty girl, hey, that haughty lady. No. Or I can call someone chinky or some monkey. No, we can't do that. We should showcase, if I'm to be a good leader, can I showcase that conduct in all 360-degree way across all the stakeholders, across all the ecosystems when I'm trying to. That's what I'm telling as acting. And when you come to engagement, when you're doing, when you're, when even in the form of acting, you're also trying to see how is your judgment. What kind of judgment you're doing across in different situations. What is the judgment you're passing and things like that and all, because leader has to pass some judgments, decision making processes when we talk about. So what are the judgments which you're talking about? That is also an action. So the action is a visible action. So what is the judgment which is talking about? That's still an acting principle. Engaging. Are you fair or not? Fairness treatment. Whenever you come across and see that in your band of people, if you have not showcased fairness, then you're not a fair leader. And the last part is, are you showcasing your authority? No one would come and tell that, hey, this is your authority. DOP will be there. Delegation of powers is a book which many of us write it and throw it in the board of directors rooms. That's it. No, you have certain authority and understand the authority. And when you have this, please take the control of the authority. No one would come and tell, hey, Mr. X, now you're supposed to do this. Hey, Mr. Y, you're supposed to do this. No, you need to understand your authority and deliver the authority. So this is a think, act, and engage. If you're able to put this in place, I think across the levels, they can be leaders. Forget designations, my dear children. Again, I'm telling you, forget, don't worry. If you want to evolve as a leader, start acting, thinking, and engaging as a leader. That's fundamental. As soon as you're sitting on your campus interviews, please prepare your answers exactly to meet whether I'm thinking as a leader, whether I'm acting as a leader, whether I'm engaging as a leader. Are you showcasing that leadership qualities and traits while you're in the interview discussions and conversations? And what is it you are going to bring to the table to that particular organization of showcasing of your leadership qualities? That's fundamental, and that is where you will differentiate and become a great leader over there. And when you talk about choices, can I go ahead and answer? Paul?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. So when I talk about choices, I wanted to connect two different things. One is wisdom and authenticity. Okay, these are the two things which I'll talk about. And as you grow, you're 20 years plus, you have certain kind of wisdom. When you're in late 40s, you have certain kind of wisdom. When you're 50s and plus, you have certain kind of wisdom. Wisdom comes from experiences, your own things, your own ways, where you are there, what ecosystems you were there, and how did you grow, cultures, everything. And also a lot of wisdom is there for us. And a lot of wisdom comes from interactions and things also. Authenticity. How authentic are you and things like that. So we'll characterize this authenticity also into two ways. That is personal authenticity and a moral authenticity. When you're talking about personal authenticity, you're telling to be yourself. Can I be myself in all the situations? So that's where your self-mastery will come into your help. Can I be myself? Whatever I am, if I'm Annapurna with I would say that integrity is my core. Can I be standing for that in whatsoever situations I am? That's fundamental. That's the core of you. You don't get converted into the core of you. Don't, dilute that core, I would say. Don't even just wait for that core. The other one is moral authenticity, which is very, very, very hard, my dear friends. That is choices one makes by keeping the moral values in place and keep being yourself. That's very difficult. So if I have to give you a formula over there, personal authenticity is equal to self-mastery, perception, evolution, plus, plus, plus. If you talk about moral authenticity, it is judgment, fairness, and conduct. If you're able to do this, I think you're going to be fantastic leaders. And this has been my way to do things. And I think, yeah, I have got a lot of opportunities, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. As a women leader, from an IR thing to now, I think I have been get out. I have been beaten to an extent, but sometimes they're told that, yeah, you're a woman, so we can't do this. So they just came and they thought there is a collar. Unfortunately, they saw me sari and blouses, so they can't do that because they will have. Posh has come very late, my dear friends. Before Posh, we had many things. We also fought for many things. So I'm sure there are very many girls are also attending over here. But I would say that there is no difference between a male leader or a woman leader. Leader is a leader. That's it. Please go ahead with creating yourself as your own core values. Stick on to it and get along. And I'm sure that you will evolve. There are a lot of thorns. Leadership is full of thorns. There's no bed of roses for sure. Thank you so much.
Great. There was a situation a few years back, and incidentally, I'm sharing my experience about the designation part of it. A few years back, we were having a joke around BFSI, especially the banking and financial services. There is a joke. So the joke says that there were a few people who were offered rather freshers, the first time employment individuals. They were offered a designation called AVP, an associate vice president. The joke was, because I spent considerable amount of time in terms of BFSI. When the joke is that the designation actually pans out as another vice president. So it is not about the designation. It is not about the level at which you get hired. It's about the role. It is about how well you can do that particular part of that particular activity. I will quickly summarize a few thoughts which were put across in this part, and we will then quickly run on to the next part of it. So Kamal was talking about leadership through thought and experience. He talked about learning from experience from other people and be the change. He was talking about that. Annapurna made statements, or she basically talked about wisdom and authenticity about people. She talked about extreme courage. She talked about a wide array of the seven processes which is there, and she talked about how important is it for a male and a female to be treated equally in the workspace. Then we had Vishu talking about great jobs, how that they should not wait for the jobs to come. And in case you are an entrepreneur and you have the entrepreneur hat on you, don't wait for the job to come, create the job for yourself. That's one. He talked about being resilient. He talked about being agile. He said that there is an action orientation which is required in a job. He talked about the entire spectrum which is there. MVN was more to do with inspirational leadership. He talked about how inspirational leadership is different from being an instructional leader, how well that differentiation comes into being. He actually channelized the thinking, acting, and the engaging part of it. He talked about decoding leadership in various aspects. He talked about making collaborative learning, being a part of the organization. He talks about for people to learn from their failures. So this part has been quite engaging. Now, there's a very interesting part which normally comes in a leadership, in a situation of leadership. There is a human element to every business leader, and it depends from person to person how that human factor varies. I wanted to understand from Kamal in terms, because Kamal has seen some amount of diversity in his work. So I wanted to understand from Kamal in terms of how those particular aspects keep on changing in terms of leadership.
Well, I think it'll go back to the basics of leadership. It's about self-leadership, right? But are you able to control your thoughts? Are you able to, control your emotions? Are you able to, kind of treat people in the way that you want to get treated, right? So that's where, it would start, right? As Annapurna mentioned, that there'll be different kind of people that we will deal with. It can be, from different ethnicities or, different races or different gender. Our base and core should remain the same. That's where your basic human factor starts, right? So give respect, take respect is where everything will start, right? So there might be different people, that you will come across, and everybody has a different capability, right? So you have 40 people that you work with, and if you think everybody is equally capable, then boss, I think you're living in a world which is not real, right? Everybody has their different capabilities, so it's good to identify, and it's ideal to identify each of their strengths, each of their areas of improvement, basis that kind of work with them, and it need not be subordinate. It can be also your leader. So there was one of my leaders that I really admire. He used to come and tell me, Kamal, do you have any feedback for me? In this meeting, do you think I could have done something better? Or do you think in one of the cases where, I had a discussion with an employee and that employee behaved in a certain manner, was my response apt? So that's the kind of leader that you always look up to, right? They learn from experiences, right? So he influenced all of us, right? First of all, he was so self-disciplined that there was that influencing angle that was done on himself, and then slowly he started influencing us in a way where he saw our strengths, he saw areas of improvement, and also used to take feedback from us. I would call him a wise leader because he had that ability to make sensible decisions and judgments because of the knowledge and the experience that he carried. I mean, amazing. I always look up to him and say, okay, this is how things can be, and this is how things could have been if they would have been done through a consensus by taking feedback from my own subordinates, right? So those kind of things, kind of get into you, and they slowly become your DNA. People say DNA is from birth, but as Annapurna, Vishu, and MV, all of them summarized, they said, you acquire a lot of things, and in fact, it comes to you because you have enriched your life, right? As wise leaders, you do more listening. So one of the leaders that I spoke about right now, he used to do a lot of listening. He used to talk very less. He used to listen to us, and he always used to constantly try to understand the breadth and depth of the situation, people, the world around him, right? And hats off to his emotional intelligence, right? In any situation, I've never seen him to be losing his temper. That was like amazing, right? Investing in people, investing in others, investing in himself as an individual. Truly hats off. And one of the aspects that Annapurna mentioned, have integrity, be authentic and true to yourself. That's where you will be true to others as well, right? And don't make one-sided decisions. That's something that I really kind of resonate really with, right? Decisions are to be taken with a thought that what is good in the overall scheme of things. You can be just a MBA graduate going out and joining a company, but obviously your own decisions, they impact the organization, they impact people around you. So think about that. So the positives, the negatives, it's not just about self. That's where leadership starts.
Wonderful. Good thought, Kamal. Vishu, I have a question for you. I was looking at you, and we were talking about feedback. You were citing your experiences in your past in terms of when you were in the business part of it. You went into entrepreneurship and got into a job and get back to entrepreneurship. One thought while Kamal was speaking, which came to my mind, was give respect, take respect. A lot of leaders today forget that. That angle has somehow got missed out, especially when it becomes a junior and a senior relationship, which is there. For this crowd that is there with us, what is the best way to basically not be intrusive, but be firm in terms, or stand up to your manager? What do you think would be a good way of doing that?
Okay. So if anybody think leadership is about giving great speeches or being liked or charismatic, no, it is about delivering the results. So also the leadership is not the I thing, okay? So it requires enrolling others to see something possible for themselves and their team that was not there before. So for that, the leaders should respect the people thoughts and views. Uh, when 2010 time, one of the CEO from the bigger organization sacked by the chairman, the one of the board member become a CEO, and so he came and he said he read my white paper. He asked me and he pulled me in the CEO's office, and he asked me, Visu, look at here. In the organization, I can see 15,000 people are there, but always we are taking the strategy meeting with top guys only, the leaders only. There may be 20 to 25 people are going to some resort and sitting it and doing strategy thinking. Why can't we involve everyone? Is there a way you can think about? I said, how is it possible to involve everybody in the strategy? He said, no, at least some points we should gain from them. And then we brainstormed and we came up with one platform like a idea junction. So where we ask the people to share their ideas. And but people misunderstood the idea definition. We got a lot of suggestions, grievances, complaints, hatreds about the HR and admin. So we couldn't able to get the real ideas. And it's kind of a grievance box and complaints box. So then we told the idea is you should own it, and also you can able to engage and involve others. That idea become an invention also. So can you give that idea? So from 10,000 now we got 110 only. So all rest of them we cleaned up, and that 110 came that. So in that 110, like we have taken and see which of the leaders or BU heads can support that 110 ideas to become invention. And by doing that exercise, we got able to register 10 patents. Okay, so that's the difference I have seen from. There's a huge difference between that leader and me, 20 years difference. But still, when I projected all that, he respected, and he given the freedom me to implement that Idea Junction platform and collect all that. But initial 6 months, everybody said it's a wasted enough energy, time, and all that. We are getting this junk of complaints and grievances. But it took 18 months for us to clean up and get the solid 110 ideas. And we able to work on that 3 years and came up with the 10 patents to be registered. So when we respect the people thoughts and views, we can able to tap the potentials which are they have. And the young leaders, when they are coming to the organization, so when you are getting the opportunity in the town halls or meeting the leaders or wherever you are getting that, even any of the occasion you are getting the chance to meet the leaders or through the email or chat, please share your thoughts and views.
Wonderful.
That may be more, most of the leaders are liking it, maybe very few of them may not like that, the level conscious, all that, but nowadays the leaders are want to have the inclusiveness, but same time they are saying that the idea contributor, if they want to be part of the implementation, keep them, or if they want to just give the idea and leave their hands, fine, or if they part of implementation, take them and to the invention level. Even after the invention, nowadays the leaders are looking more intrapreneurs. These intrapreneurs are kind of giving support by the business units, and they can convert their invention to the innovation also. So you can seed something, and you can, with the help of business unit heads or some of the leaders, you can grow that. When you are putting more creative and getting more support on the commercial part, you can create innovations also. So that kind of opportunity you are getting in. And also, if you think VUCA is going to disturb your career, don't worry about the VUCA. I think yesterday you would have had the detailed session on that VUCA, but I have a few points how you can, as a surfer leader, you can overcome that VUCA is be versatile. V for that VUCA, volatile is there, so be versatile so that you can be manage the volatile. And the second one, uncertainty, but you should have the understanding with the common sense. That is very much needed. Today, people have the understanding with the fixed mindset, but please don't go with that. Have the understanding with the common sense so that you will get more growth. And the third one for C, I will say challenge it. Challenge it, whatever comes to you. Don't accept it when it comes because of your hierarchy, higher people are saying that. Challenge it with the facts and the figures. It's not that blindly you are challenging to them. With the facts and figures, if you think it is good for the organization, it's good for the customer, if it is good for the associates who are working with you, challenge it. And the fourth one is ambiguity, but don't worry about the ambiguity. If you are ambitious, you can overcome this VUCA world.
Okay, that's a good thought. I mean, I have a question for you. See, we talk about feedbacks always. We talk about the fact that feedback is very, very crucial, very, very important. How important is feedback as a leader, as an individual and as a leader? How important is it for people?
Feedback is very, very important. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
I mean,
now I'm seeing this Netflix serial called Crown. Okay, and I'm seeing the first season. And Winston Churchill, most of you would be familiar with him, and his wife is there, Clementine. And it's often said that Mr. Winston Churchill, for all his achievements, I think at the age of 75, 78, one tends to become full of yourself, you know. And you tend to start believing that you can never do anything wrong. And you require somebody to actually hold a mirror to you. There's a very interesting concept articulated by one author. It's called as a Clementine mirror. Winston Churchill's wife is called Clementine Mirror. And there is a very lovely letter that is written by Clementine, which is put in one of the museums in London, which is a letter which she wrote a letter to him, and then she burned that letter. Half the letter is there, and it can be seen still in that London Tower or one of those places. And what it says is that to give a feedback, the person should trust you enough to receive the feedback. You see, none of us like feedback. In fact, I'm one of those very interesting believers to say that everybody tells me when I do a survey in the company that we are not getting enough feedback. But if feedback is given, not very many people are ready to take any feedback, except if it is appreciation that I'm doing very well and I'm getting 8 out of 8 rating. Nobody is ready to take anything as an area of improvement. I mean, largely, many people would be doing it if it comes from the right people in the right fashion. But it's very, very essential. And very interestingly, I'll just give another. All of you must have heard about this gentleman by the name Marshall Goldsmith.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the #1 coach of the world. And the #1 coach of the world, after practicing for 41 years, every day he gets one of his friends to call him up and ask him 4 questions. Have you done your best today? Are you happy with what you did? Have you delivered value to your customer? So he says that, what is the need for me? I says, I am the #1 coach in the world, and I don't need any kind of a feedback. And let's take the #1 tennis player in the world, Roger Federer. He travels with a coach and a trainer. Why? I think he doesn't know how to play his forehand and backhand. He knows what to do, but at the same time, he requires feedback because we are blind to ourselves, largely. And many of us have read all these concepts called Johari window and blind spots and so on and so forth. And we require feedback, but feedback has to come from people who can see us, who can observe us. Many a time what happens, I realize, is that when you become a big team leader, I mean, let's say, for example, I have a team of, let's say, around 200 people working with me. There are some team members I might be meeting only maybe once in 2 years or so, once in a year or so. And am I in a position to give them a feedback on the basis of hearsay or on the basis of outcomes that they produce? Or have I seen them observing or doing a performance? So I think the right kind of feedback has to come from the right people. And if you trust a guy who gives you the feedback and he has seen you performing, I think take the feedback with both the hands, mull over it. In fact, very interestingly, somebody told me that very interestingly, when you get fired for a bad job, don't actually try and reflect on it immediately, because you will be very subjective at that time, because you think that you have been unfairly treated and X and Y and Z. That is what I heard even Virat Kohli talking about it some time back. When you lose a match, don't try to do a post-mortem of it immediately, because you will be very subjective and very emotional about it at that moment. So you step back on it after 72 hours, think about it. I'm sure the subjectivity and all those emotional highs which you hit, I think they subside, and then you will be able to look at things in a very, very much better fashion. So that's why feedback is important, and feed forward is also very important. That is what you need to do as you go forward. It's not just about what I have done not too well, but how do I actually think, reflect, and how do I actually get onto the balcony and look at the feedback, not when I'm on the dance floor, when I'm in the middle of the thick of the action, but when the subjectivity has weaned away and I can objectively look at what I did not do and what I did, and what is the kind of a work in progress I am, and I build on top of that. I think these are some of the things which you need to constantly, because the young people who are sitting in front of us, I'm sure you come into a company and you start working. I mean, I'm sure leadership is, nobody will ask you what kind of a leader you are for at least some years. You will be getting down to doing something with an individual contributor or as a better team leader of one person or two people. And when you actually sit down to work, the best thing for you is that whatever is given to you, I think imagine that as a learning opportunity and give your best shot, prepare for it, approach it with earnestness, and then give it the kind of diligence which you need to demonstrate for that, so that people start viewing you seriously. That means that you mean business, you are here to contribute, you're wanting to be a part of the team, and you get accepted. Because it is not very easy, because when you move from an organization to organization, you got to get accepted, because it is not, your past doesn't travel with you. There's an old boss of mine. It's a very interesting thing. I have to recount this story. When we acquired a company in a local town hall, people asked the question, I'm a top performer in the previous company, what happens to me in the new company? So he said very simply, performance is like not a savings account, it is a current account. It is not that I performed yesterday that will carry forward to the next day. It is like a current account. It is to be performed today. If you perform today, you will be recognized today. It doesn't carry from one company to another company, and it doesn't carry from one boss to the another boss. It doesn't carry beyond 1 year to the another year, or one day to another day. Yesterday you perform doesn't mean that I sleep off today, because there is always competition. There are people wanting to do better than you. There are people wanting to do actually outshine you all the time. And there is a world, that is the world we live in. That is what the choices we have made. And if you get into a corporate world, it is going to be that. So feedback is important. Evaluating the feedback is important, and working on it is important. And that is actually the block on which the entire leadership building takes place, DL. Because you don't always, you're a leader as a work in progress. 25 years back when I started, I thought I passed out from the most premier management school of the country. And actually, I realized that I started learning after that one. And that is how you start and you go forward. And then you realize that at every point of stage, there's somebody coming and telling you what I should have done better, what I could do better, and how I could do better. And I actually keep doing that. And then when people turn around and tell you that you're doing a little better than what you did yesterday, yes, you're on the right path. And you can continue on the journey till you lay down your arms. You are a work in progress all the time. That is what leadership in action is all about.
Okay, that's a good thought. I observed Annapurna smiling when MVN was talking about that performance does not get carried from one organization to the other organization. I saw her reflecting on that statement. Annapurna, I wanted to understand from your perspective. See, we get to hear this quite a bit, that your performance does not carry forward, but it becomes very, very important within an organization to invest in a particular person or in a particular group of people. How important is it for the leader to invest in its team or in particular individuals for them to grow as an organization? How critical is that?
I would say it is highly critical. One sentence. And I'll share an example as how my leader has invested on me. Okay, then I think that will be, because I never felt that it was an investment. I felt it as a punishment actually when he started investing on me. Okay, what has happened is, this is the world's premier opthal lens product. Essilor is the organization. The CEO is he comes from a financial background, hardcore CA, and he's sitting as a CEO. And now I sit as a HR head over there. And whatever proposals I used to take it to him, he, not even a second, he will turn it back and he'll tell, go ahead, Annapurna, think about it and come back. So never ever I used to think, what is this? Why this man is always, pushing off my proposals, pushing off things back to me, not able to, I'm not able to convince him, or not able to, or he is rather not able to understand the HR issues or HR proposals. This was something which was there from my end. But whereas he is trying to build me in a very different way. But slowly, when I started to, whenever I just redo those proposals, redo any of those things and all, I started thinking that he's preparing me not from the functional perspective, but he was preparing me from the business perspective. So I was actually transitioning from a HR leader to be a business leader. So for me, that gap was very difficult to handle, because I was always like this. My horns were like, I was just like a horse like this with this. I was riding like this. He told, no, broaden your spectrum, see what it is. You need to rise above. That's what I think somewhere we were thinking, that go ahead and say, rise above this one and see it at an elevated level. So can you, if you're talking about driving an incentive plan, for the this one as a HR initiative, can you connect it with sales? Can you connect it with the outcome? Can you read the P&L document? Can you see what is your OPEX? Can you see what is your comp and ben this one? How much it will be there? Where from the whole thing is going to come? And whether it is a uniform thing, or is it something that you have to make it performance driven? So if so, what is it? So every bit of things, any proposals, when I was doing it over a period of time, Paul, you can't believe. I think I was sitting in the boardrooms or my executive committees, wherein my other colleagues or the functional leaders of sales, customer service, logistics and all, they used to have this complete tagline by telling that Bhagwan de deta hai, pujari nahi deti hai. So that's what means, the Lord sanctions, but the Purohit doesn't sanction. That means they used to consider me, because I used to ask them 10 fundamental business questions. Even for hiring, I said, why you should hire a sales executive? What are your numbers? How much are you doing? Do you have a distributor over there? Is the turnover over here this much? Then we will position a sales executive. After that, I have started creating my policies, my procedures, my lot of internal processes in such a way that it has become business related. So what I would say is, each leader has a style to develop you. There's no one sutra or one mantra. Sometimes you are also, and leaders do not communicate it, that I'm developing you. They're genuinely interested in your development, but they will not showcase, they will not they will not put tantrums and they're not all trumpets and things like that and showcase it. But they will spot you. They will tell, okay, these are the areas your strengths are, but these are the areas you need development if you have to go to the next level. And that's when I think it is our wisdom to identify what am I in the making. So get back once, sit back and just ponder on yourself as to, okay, what's happening with me? Why is it that my manager is hitting me? I could have taken back and told that, oh, this man doesn't like me. He throws my proposals. He's like, hating me or whatever it is, or I should kick off my jobs and go away. He's not considering me as a great thing. But over a period of 24 months, when he did this, completely beating me on the iron, just shaping me up. And I think when I was, after 2 years, I was speaking exactly like a business leader. And for me, I think that was a great transition. So if you're joining at a junior level, probably what will happen is we'll start with one function. We're not doing every function. Say I was in talent acquisition, then I will get into some other functions. Then I'll become an overall HR of this. And then probably from HR handling and a generalist and things like that, probably you need to know how to work with other functions. Then slowly as you go into the top, you cannot be a leader of a function. You have to be a leader of a business. And that requires a lot of metals. And for that metal, if you're having a good coach over there, I think they will identify and do it.
Wonderful.
So that has been my way of doing it.
Good thought.
Yeah.
So negative feedback is not bad. For guys,
Absolutely.
whoever is listening, if it's a negative feedback, it is not necessary that it is bad. It's just an input for you to grow from there. Having said that, there is we are running around half an hour. We have half an hour, so I want to reserve the last 15 minutes or last 20 minutes for questions. I quickly wanted to touch upon 2 points. One is how to be an aware leader, and what do you think are the consequences of your decisions? Maybe a quick roundup from all four of you. Any one of you could start.
Let me go first because this is my very favorite question and I have been researching it from the last 24 months. And I think enough destruction has already been created in the corporate, in the higher education or in the school education by not evolving or not developing emotional intelligence. In this, we don't talk about it. And then suddenly we come to the boardrooms and we'll tell that you should be a resilient leader, you should be a change leader, you should manage fear, you should manage this, you should manage that. What else? I mean, I'm sorry. I was always, it is just exactly by telling that you get into the competitive world of getting a medical seat and you tell the doctor to be very compassionate. Now, how is that possible in the first year? That fellow will still sit with the competition mindset. The same way we just hire only based on IQ. Everything is based on IQ. How much ever you're a HR person, how much ever you're trained on your behavioral event interviews, whatsoever and all, the decision is made on IQ. Your functional head, your technical head will come and, "Arey, yeah, this chap is so brilliant. He's a data scientist. Data scientist you will not get with this kind of experience. He's perfect. Annapurna, go and give the letter." Now, yeah, I can, but this fellow is very arrogant. He's having 2 other offers. I'll give all the inputs and I'll bet him also, but within 6 months, this fellow will move away. But still, he will not hear me out. So a lot of things which we have seen, which we were a party or to it, and we have been endorsing all of this and things like that. But I have seen leaders actually throwing their emotions in the boardrooms, in the executive committees, where 1 quarter has gone disbalanced. Just 1 quarter. Now, during this pandemic, last 9 months, I think they all have really understood what is not being at the workplace, what is building trust, what is working with in collaboration and things like that. So I would say that if you're talking about self-awareness, emotional intelligence, the first Dan Goleman's first thing is, are you building your self-awareness, the self-mastery? That's very important. And I think it is across we have to do it because we have sidelined this emotional literacy. So we have to build that. That's very important, fundamental for us. So I think once we are done with this, then I think we can move on to do many other things in place and things like that. That's my take.
Your thoughts.
Okay.
I agree with Annapurna because leadership is actually a journey of continuous becoming. I mean, you're being to becoming, and then your becoming is actually realizing in the form of an impact what you're doing through your actions. So to do any of these things at all the times, you need to be conscious and you need to be aware. And you need to be aware and conscious about what is the kind of impact or what is the kind of a touch point you are having with the people to whom you're going to work or the stakeholders you're going to work. And whether it be the feedback, whether it be the coaching, whether it be the mentoring, the various learning programs you have, and the various kinds of toolkits which you use, and all these things should help you to become more and more conscious and become aware of what you are and what is your strength, what is the areas where you need to work upon, and what comes naturally to you. And those are the kind of areas where I think what Visu also talked about with respect to the choices you make. You see, when you actually sit down, the young people are actually looking forward to your job. When you look forward to your job, where you want to actually first make your start. What are the kind of start you want to do? Because you may get a job of your liking, or you may not get a job of your liking. It's all possible. But we all want to make a start. And wherever you make a start, I think you've got to continuously start working on. One side is what do you bring to the table is only what you can control. What you bring to the table is yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your sense, your perception, your abilities, and what you bring to the values. And you become more and more aware of your strengths. I think you will be able to make choices which are in line with your strengths and which you will be able to utilize as you go forward. And ultimately, if you want to be high on the bell curve, high on the top of the knot, I think you got to be played to your strengths. And every one of us is unique. It's very interesting, actually. When I passed out many years back, we had many people in our class. The toppers are nowhere in the top now. Actually, you realize that, and many of them have become professors, many of them have given their work, many of them become consultants, many of them are still in the belief, many of them are still in the profession. Each one's journey is going to be very unique. Because I'm sure you can ask your parents, you can ask your people who have gone ahead of you, and then you will realize that the journey of yours is only your journey. So your journey, the unique journey, it is going to be built on your awareness, your consciousness, and your capabilities and your strengths. And if you play to it, and I'm sure you will have something to relish and look back and feel good about yourself, and that you created some impact and made a mark in the society, whatever you're chosen. I think it's very, very essential. And it's always, I keep telling that it is not that I think on one day you have arrived and from tomorrow onwards I'll just use those things. Nothing like that happens in this world. I think it is like wo bolta hai na Shah Rukh Khan, picture abhi baki hai mere dost. I mean, it's like that. I think a picture to hamesha baki rehta hai, and then it will go on and on and on. Keep working on it. It is not that you fail in one day, you don't get a job, or you did not do that job well, or you did not do the sale. Nothing comes to an end in this world. I think you just get up next day morning again and start all over again. So perseverance, resilience, self-consciousness, awareness, and discipline of all the things. Basically, because you realize that all of us know what to do. I think intellectually there is nobody in this entire 115 people who don't know what to do. Everybody knows what to do. But only few people are able to do it. Why? Because to work on something requires a lot of effort, lot of sacrifice, lot of self-discipline. And when Marshall Goldsmith says that after 41 years, I still keep getting, how do I improve upon myself? I think it requires discipline of the highest supreme order if you have to become a leader worth your salt, or even worthwhile to even realize the potential with which you have started. So I think self-consciousness and awareness is very, very important. But you keep building on it over a period of time, and don't have to start tomorrow morning saying that it's like not a New Year resolution. Just you make a resolution and next day morning you think you're going to become something. It's just a work in progress. Work on it, and I'm sure as you work on it, you will get better and better. And there will be people who will come along and help you on the journey too. And then that's where you take with both the hands and build on top of that. That's my little 2 pieces for all the young friends over there, and how you can actually build your career and work on top of it.
Kamal, actions and consequences. Quick.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, MV. Very well captured. As I earlier said as well, right? It starts with yourself first, right? And the more ethical you're for yourself, the more ethical you'll be for people around you, and it applies to all, right? It's also about making people perform to the best of their capability, and not to point out, just pointing out things and saying, you don't have this capability, you don't have this ability. So have you done anything as a leader or as a colleague to equip them to do better? These are some thoughts that we can ponder upon, because it's about alignment basis the capability of people, right? Annapurna did capture a couple of points where she felt there was a boss who didn't approve of any of the ideas, but yeah, there was a transition that he wanted her to go through as a business towards a business leader, right? So trust people around, and then you will be having those experiences coming your way. You'll be having those situations coming in your way, which are not actually no one would have seen it earlier. It would be a very unique situation, but different experiences, different thoughts that you would have heard from people, or you would have seen them perform differently in a different situation, you will kind of, grow. I'm sure you would have seen a lot of poor leaders as well, who do micromanagement, who are very, very controlling, and basically they want to hold everything with them, right? So it's about, striking the right balance, I would say, not being micromanaging, not overly, disrespecting people. And the worst part is there are leaders that all of us would have seen who lack vision, right? So that's very, very important. So that's where I would start on hookah, right? So have a vision, understand yourself, your team, right? V for vision, U for understanding yourself and your team. Have clarity around your thoughts, right? And be agile. This world is all about being agile. We are working in a global world now. It's not just about working in your organization and in the same industry. It's working across different regions, different cultures, different people, right? So agility is key. And last but not the least, I would surely talk about one fine thing which I have kind of tried to practice. It's actually about striking the right balance or a proper balance between leadership and management, and you'll surely see success there.
Good. Vishu.
Yeah, I think you are learning too many things and hearing from so many seniors. Don't become a analysis paralysis. Okay. So, and more and more we are using our left brain. We are forgetting to use our right brain also, and try to balance your profession versus passion also, because many people I have seen in the mid of the like 40, 42, they will say, I want to become this one, that one, but unfortunately, because of my family situation, all that I took this career and today I'm there. And they want to become suddenly a musician, suddenly they want to go for two different businesses also. So if you possible, your career also should be fit to your passion. So try to balance your passion and profession, and for that, that's where I said try, you can use your right brain more and become more creative also. And if you are small tippers, if you are right hand domination, try to use your left hand. Maybe try to use brush it with your left hand and start doing with more left hand. And if you are left dominant, you use your right hand so that your opposite brain will awake. And when you are creative, don't try to invent something on your own. Try to do more co-creation, because nowadays the collaborative way only we can now go. Even the organizations are trying to collaborate more and more with other organizations and complement each other strengths and weaknesses also. Don't if you are good in something, if somebody else is not good in that, don't try to suppress that, and try to complement and make others also successful. When you are making others successful, you will also become more successful. So that's the another one. The last point which I currently I'm also doing that. It's more adaptive thinking. So adaptive thinking is hard. Okay. So because the adaptive mindset is not the thinking process. Okay. So the adaptive mindset is hard to do alone. You have to collaborate and complement with others, then only you can do. So when you are having that kind of engaged people with you, I think you can touch the new heights. So as a young leaders, it's not only your success, so make it many people's success, and make it many businesses success, and make our country proud.
Wonderful. Good thought. I'm not sure many of you guys who are listening to us would have realized by now, large kings, large empires have basically lost their might because a small thing called ego comes in their way. When you stop listening to people, when you stop listening to individuals, when you don't invest in individuals, when you don't start to think about your people, it goes down the drain. Another basic fact, as Vishu was putting it, analysis paralysis. Typically, what happens is when we overanalyze a particular situation, we tend to make it more complicated. You've done something, finish it off, move on. That precisely helps a lot of us. Having said that, I want to quickly ask all four of you to sum up in 30 seconds, because I want to give time to the teams to also ask questions in terms of what are the key, maybe two key learnings that they need to have in the start of their careers or while restarting their careers after them. Start with Kamal. Kamal, you could start with that.
So I'll take it from what Vishu said. Don't get into too much of analysis and paralysis of what has happened to you till now, right? Just stick to your basics. There is not necessary that you take all the decisions basis all the data that is available from you. Yeah, there is from available sources. Passion and profession, if they go together, nothing like it, right? So follow your passion, make it your profession. Obviously, there'll be success that will come your way.
Vishu.
Okay, so you must be heard about the teamwork and the new world which you are going to get in. It's expecting you to more practice the team. What is the difference from teamwork and teaming is? Teaming is on the fly teamwork. Okay, so you are not going to work with the same set of people who are with you for a long term. So the team is going to keep changing. It's more dynamic because a lot of remote working people are from across the geography going to work with you. So teaming is more needed. The second one is flexing. People will say you need to be flexible, adaptive, all that. But the flexing is you are going to work with a different role people and different level of people. It is not that you are going to have the only 3 years experience set of people or 5 years experience. Now it is expected to be more teams are getting agile. So all level of people and all different roles of people are going to work that. So adopt the flexing. And the third one is presencing. So the presencing is the word, maybe you can Google it. It is a new theory. It is getting developed from MIT Sloan, and presencing is the bringing the future to present. So bringing the future to present, have earlier people say vision, but the vision mission is getting confused with 3 years, 5 years, you will go all that. So better bringing the future to present and see how you can able to contribute. These are the teaming, flexing, and presencing. This three is my takeaway for you.
Annapurna.
Well, for me, I would stick on to the same thing. I will tell, just showcase great courage and integrity. Please be there and let that be your leadership culture. And culture building is very difficult. So leadership culture, be a part of that leadership building culture and let it start from you. And showcase that immense courage and integrity as long as you can. And please continue. It is very difficult. I'm not telling it's an easy thing, but yes, but that will define you. I would say that. Yeah.
MVN, golden nuggets from you.
So I would like to leave all the young fellows with a couple of thoughts on focus on what you can do. I mean, ultimately, it is about your preparation based on your strengths and focus on discipline in executing that. Well, I'll tell you what, there is, at the end of the day, there is more said than done in this world. There are too many talkers and few doers. And if you are wanting to join the line of the doers, I think that line is much, much shorter and you will get ahead also well. Because talkers will get ahead for a while, but beyond that, I think people see through that game very quickly. Because ultimately, what is counted in this world is what have you done. And people and outcomes and performance will be seen, perceived, understood. And if you are able to focus by preparing well, by sticking to your unique strengths, and focusing on actually delivering value to whoever is your stakeholder for what he or she is paying you for, I think that you will actually you'll never have to look back and you will continuously foray ahead in your career.
Wonderful. Okay, I want to give you one bit of advice from my 19 years out of experience banging my head against corporates, leaders, and all. One thing that all of you guys need to understand is no work is big or small. It is the individual who is big or small. The day you suddenly realize that you have crossed that bridge of identifying a job as big or small, or basically you have gone beyond that work part of it, that day you would realize that everything that comes to you gives you excitement. As people who are starting off new in your career, it needs to have that excitement. The day you drag yourself to work in the morning, that is the day when you should actually start evaluating if something is gone wrong. It should be exciting, it should be power packed, it should always be aggressive. All right. And conflicts, issues, debates, disagreements are all part of the job. If you ever get into that situation, it's a learning and not a downer. So look at that as a learning. I think we would do fairly well there.